Yeah, good morning and welcome to another day of I'll Be in the Barn. Well, we've had a little catastrophe around here. I had a 64 gigabyte memory card that I was saving all the videos on, and it got full yesterday, and I took it out, put in a different one, a little 16 byte card or gigabyte card, and we were setting the engine in here, and somehow it came out of my pocket, and we ran over it with the dang cherry picker, the engine hoist, so it doesn't work anymore. So everything I've done for the past couple of months really is no longer available. So lucky for you guys, you get the shortened version. So this is what we've done. Got the rear end out of the F-150 and got it tacked into place here on the Bronco 2 frame. I got to lower it down, like I added some height to it, but with the standard F-150 springs in the front, the rear end's too high, so I need to trim them down and get it set in more level. Alright, and like I said, we got the engine set in here. Here's what we did. Built these spring towers and shock towers here. We got the springs in there, got them mounted, got them tacked onto the frame. I'm going to finish welding these up today, and then after I get that done, I'm going to cut down the pads on the rear end, get them tacked back on, and then I'm going to paint the frame. We had to extend out. You can see right here, that 1/2 inch thick plate right there, we had to extend out the side of the frame right there, because in the front there's a little curve in it. So in order to avoid that curve and get the spring tower relatively straight, it's still tilted to the back a little bit, we had to put that plate in there. So we got that done. Got the plates all welded up, like I said, and springs back in it. I'm also going to move the sway bar up front. I had moved it forward, but now that we got the springs in it, I got to move it back again. And the reason I moved it forward was to try and line up the spring towers with the original ones that were in here. I don't know if you remember me, I put a line right here, right there, where the original spring tower was, right in the center. Well, in order to make this front end from the F-150 fit in here and clear this center part, these axles had to go back a little bit. So there's a hole back there on both sides. They're even. So I measured up and I set them at, in order for the clearance up here, they're set at 95 7/8 up to the axle nut right there. So both sides are even now. After we had the springs on, the front end was a little bit towed in, but after we set the motor in it, it brought it down enough, flattened out the tires, so all that's good. Also, I got rid of the factory radius arms that were on here, trailing arms, whatever you want to call them, control arms. And I built some out of DOM. It's like pretty close to Schedule 40 pipe size. Got hind joints on the front and back, got 2 of them, so it's parallel. Seen a guy do that online. I said, yep, that's what I'm thinking. And so that's what I did. So this front end will be able to travel up and down and have a little bit of side-to-side movement. So I got those in, got them mounted, got the brackets all welded in. I haven't tightened up the nuts yet. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to tack the nuts on the back side, so if I ever have to take them off, I just got to unscrew the bolt, and the nut will stay there. I put these about 26-inch pieces of 4-inch square tubing on here. Use that for two purposes. One, to mount the control arms on, the radius arms on both sides. And also on this side here, I had to notch out a piece of the frame in order for the transfer case to fit, which is right there. There we go. There's why I notched it out on the bottom part of the frame. And so it's going to hold that, stiffen that back up, so I don't have to try and put a loop or something underneath there. So we got that done. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and weld these shock towers in here permanent now. And I took the old spring towers from the Bronco and cut out the retainer that goes here, and they're welded to the inside of the towers that we made there to hold them in place, hold them centered. If you jack it up high enough, they'll slide out from those, and then you can take the springs out. I'm gonna put a plate right here, probably about 2 inches across there, just so if something happens in there, the spring won't slide out the side. Yeah, that's where we got so far in a nutshell. I think I may have had a video. The sandblaster that hooks to a power washer, it worked decent, right? You can go through a lot of sand using that, and you got to get certain sand in order for it to suck it through there, but they ain't got all the dust that you have with regular sandblasting, that's for sure. But so I sandblasted this frame. Like I said, I didn't think about sandblasting the F-150 frame, which the shock towers are made out of the rails from the F-150 frame. It's about 3/16 steel. I wanted to make it out of 1/4 inch. I went down to the recycle yard. They changed the rules where you can't just go looking around anymore for stuff that you want. They put stuff out front that they say is reusable, and most of it was junk. But they had a 5x8 sheet of 1/4 inch, and I only had my truck, so 5 foot wide wasn't going to fit. And so I was going home. I told them I was coming back to pick it up. By the time I got back there with my trailer, it was 10 after 4 and they were closed. And I was itching to get working first thing in the morning, so me and my buddy Kevin, who you've seen in quite a few videos, we talked about that frame, and that's what I decided to go with. So that's why we're using that frame. Other than that, I've also had to modify the transmission mount from the F-150 because the one that comes on the Bronco was up in the air too high. So I took and cut that one and re-welded it together and bolted it back in place where the Bronco used to be bolted. We're pretty close to center on the back pig. Once we get the engine set in here again, after I get this painted, that's when we'll finish welding in the rear axle. But I want to make sure that it's in the right place before I weld it up solid. So that's going to go there. The clearance I was talking about on the front axle is this arm right here was hitting this edge. So that's why we ended up moving the axle back a little bit, so now that it don't hit that edge. I got clearance all the way around. And like I said, now I just got to get this welded up, and that's what I'm gonna do now. So thanks for watching. I might put a little video on while I'm welding, speed through it, but I got quite a bit of welding to do. So there went your 2 months of video all in 10 minutes or 5 minutes. That noise you hear in the background is a wood chipper, wipes out splitting wood, so I don't have to. And I appreciate her doing it for me. She likes to do it anyways. Oh, while I was hooking my clamp on back there, it reminded me, for the rear leaf springs, you can see that weld on there, right about where the clamp is for the welder. I had to extend those out. Oh, I guess that's about inch in order for the F-150 leaf springs to fit in the brackets for the. Those were the Bronco 2 brackets. But like I said, I extended them out for the F-150 springs to fit into. I was gonna just use the ones off the F-150, the mounts for those, but they were larger than the frame, so that's why I did that. They're sturdy, welded up good, and I also had to move the motor mounts. So that's the original motor mount things from the F-150. The motor mounts that are on the engine, these are the body mounts for the engine. Anyway, I took the ones off the F-150, I cut them down, I had the engine sitting in here, I lined up the bolt holes, tacked them in place, made sure everything lined up, then I got them cut down to the right size, using the same bolt holes on this side as what was here already. And on this side, I filled that bolt hole and I had to drill a new one right here. And then I made these tabs right here and I welded a nut on the back, and I welded these tabs to this cross member right here so that I can take the motor mount, the body mounts completely out. The engine body mounts, not the body mounts. Take them completely out if I need to. Like I said, we slid the engine transmission transfer case in here last night. Everything lined up perfectly. And so, all right, now it's time to get welded. Enough talking. So the other day we had our first 20-degree morning, probably about 38 or 9 now today, so I figured it was a good time to went and cut some wood up that we had out there so that Mama could start splitting it instead of waiting for the snow to fly. Also on the other video I talked about welding uphill versus welded downhill. You can weld and make a pretty bead going downhill, but you're not getting the penetration you get going uphill. So for structural things in a vertical, it's better to weld it uphill so that you get good penetration and a good solid weld. But I got a little gap here where these corners are rounded. So right now I'm welding downhill, and then I'll go back over it and go uphill. Sure can get a lot prettier going downhill, but not good enough. And if you're welding uphill, you'll probably want to turn your heat down. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and move to the other side, let this cool down a little bit before I run those uphill beads. I suppose I should have you over here so you can look over my shoulder. Like I said, I'm going to run it downhill and then I'll come back and run it uphill. You out of gas?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't need mix, just regular gas.
Just regular gas.
Yeah.
Gold bar.
Yeah, can you carry one? Or
I
take...
just drive the truck too.
Okay.
I don't know why you're still burning. It's beautiful outside now. The sun's come out.
Just open the door. I ain't been burning nothing.
Oh,
Leave the door open. Let some smoke out.
you're in a crack. I wasn't even on the way.
No. Yeah, that's fine.
Give you smoke burp.
Swing around to the other side. Go back to the other side, turn my welder down and go uphill. That's looking ugly. Well, I went behind myself and cleaned up the metal so that this will weld better this time around than it did the first time around. Oh, wrong mask. That was a little bright. I wasn't a little bright, but that was. Always put on your welding mask before you weld.
Yeah.
Don't try it with a clear face shield.
I've always heard that.
Oh yeah, that's way better now that I cleaned it up. Good penetration. That side's done. Move over to the other side. Yeah, much better. I'm gonna run over this weld one more time, even though it looks good. It's got some holes in it because I didn't clean it up before I welded it. Turn the heat back up. Yeah, that looks good. Thanks for watching. Till next time when I'll be in the barn.